A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. We are back with another daily reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and today's reflection, I recorded it while we were traveling. So all you lucky listeners will get to listen to the voice note in this episode. Let's get into it.
We back, players and player haters, playettes, and anything and everything in between, with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic.
Today's reflection is on, well, the realest of the real. The biggest question: what is reality? This philosophy, if you listen to the intro episode to this project, Intro to Vedanta, episode number 1, it gives the overview of the whole philosophy and touches on the deep end of the pool. The whole philosophy can be summed up in just a few minutes, and that's what that episode does. For all listeners that want to listen to it first time, second time, maybe 2 or 3 times to grasp this philosophy, I'm smiling because listening to it 2 or 3 times might not be enough to really understand what this philosophy is saying. But so much of this philosophy is just, it's practical living. It's often called the practical philosophy because it helps so much in our practical day-to-day lives. But this philosophy touches into some pretty gnarly depths of what is going on around us when it says that none of this that we're experiencing is real. It is akin to a dream where we are certain that something is real because we're perceiving it, but just like the dream, a perception, our senses touching and perceiving a wall or another person, circumstance, actually has nothing to do with what's real and what's not. We experience that every night that we go to bed and we have a dream that feels so vivid and real, and then you wake up and within 10 seconds, none of that was real. And that's what this philosophy is saying with this experience, that just like the dream, we swear, well, this has to be real because I can touch it, I can feel it, I can perceive it. And this philosophy says over and over again, our sense perceptions have nothing to do with what's real and what's not. And that dream example is the one you can go back to over and over again as proof that our sense perceptions have nothing to do with what's real and what's not. They deceive us every night. Or I saw a video on YouTube of what a mirage looks like in the desert, and it was very cool to see this camera and what it was pointing at looks exactly like a lake. That kind of like metallic mirror reflection looked exactly like a lake from up high on this sand dune. And this person on a bike just rides, 2,000 feet towards it, just going faster and faster down the hill. And the lake just moves further and further away. And then they get down there and it's all just dry land. Dry, arid, cracked ground. The exact opposite of water. So even in the waking state, our perceptions can be wildly off. And we build lives around these mirages that we think, well, yeah, if I could get material stability, if I could get that career or financial milestone, yeah, that's going to satisfy my thirst. It's going to be the lifeblood for happy living, for freedom. And then you get there, and then boom, you get, well, as I touched on 2 days ago, you're in the midst of an 8-week cold that never ends, sinus infection. And you think, yeah, but if I could just get rid of that. Not to belabor this cold theme that I've talked about in previous episodes, but I tore a muscle in my rib cage from coughing And it's been, I don't know, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Apparently, like you could pull your back and you're better in 7 days, but pull your neck, some muscle in your neck, you're better in like 3 or 4 days. But the ribs, because you're moving them so much, is, can take 5, 6, 7 weeks to heal if you pull a muscle. And you get to all of these other things you think are going to quench your thirst. And then you're like, and now if I could just be healthy, if I could just get this last thing. We've recorded an episode recently on the snares of 99, just that one last thing. I got 99 things and just one more, and I'll be happy. Mirage. As much of a mirage conceptually as that video was visually, it's always eluding us because it's not there. None of anything that we're searching for is out there. And when we pursue it, it's the lake that recedes and eludes us. So what is reality? Well, in the philosophy of Vedanta, for 8,000 years, the philosophy has a very technical definition of reality is that which persists. And you ask Google or ChatGPT give me definitions of reality, and that's one that comes up quite often philosophically. That which is unchanging, that which persists. Which is interesting because we think of reality as something kind of like the word tall, where it's a descriptive word where things are more real than others. In the same way, something is taller than something else. And that has value, and I'll touch on that in a second. But the succinct definition is that which persists, meaning that which is permanent and eternal. That is reality, and that which changes doesn't persist. It's temporary. It's not reality. It's not to say that this is unreal, that there's nothing happening here. And from that lens, in the example of the dream, there is something that is happening. There is a phenomenon, if not set of phenomena that are happening to create that experience. And this is where this language within this philosophy gets so precise. And it's so easy to misinterpret it. It's not saying that this experience is unreal. It's not saying the dream is unreal. There is something happening. But you also cannot say it's real. In the same way that you wake up and we colloquially will say, yeah, that wasn't real, because there's something more real. This gets into that territory of there's something taller. There's something, in terms of an adjective, there's something more real that makes that not reality itself. So we have two things going on. One is a definition, a technical definition of what satisfies as reality is within this philosophy. And, anyone on the street, 10 different people can come up with 10 different definitions of reality, but that's how it's defined in this philosophy, that which persists, as well as many other philosophies. That which persists. You have this technical absolute definition of reality. And then you have this relative aspect of reality, like the waking state being more real than the dream state. And these blend when you get into the fourth state. And if I've lost anyone, go listen to the intro episode, because this is a deep cut within this philosophy. What is reality? That is about as deep of a cut as that is the deepest of the deep end of the pool of discussing these concepts, of discussing any philosophical concepts. What is reality? But this second territory of this subject of reality, beyond the absolute definition of that which persists, so what is eternal is real, and everything that is not eternal is not reality. It is like a shadow, a reflection. The shadow, something is happening with a shadow, but it is less real in this second territory, the adjective, the relative definition of reality. What's more real than what we're experiencing here? This second territory is like an example of a shadow. A shadow is less real than the object that's creating the shadow, because the object does not depend on the shadow to exist. The object exists whether the shadow is there or not. But the shadow depends on the object to exist. Let me break that down. The object is more real than the shadow. And this gets into the relative definition of reality. More real. Something has more reality to it. This is the practical side of the use of this definition. Something is more real. Like the object that casts a shadow on the ground, that object is more real than the shadow. And I'll touch on why this is practically helpful in a second. That object is more real than the shadow because the object can exist independent of the shadow existing or not. The shadow, on the other hand, can only exist if the object exists. It is dependent on what is more real. It is dependent on the object existing for the shadow to exist. This experience that we are having right now, it has, like I said, you can't say it's unreal. The mirage is a phenomena. There is something happening there. It's not what we think it is. It's not a lake. It is a misapprehension of that phenomena. In the same way, this waking state, we're told by the sages and lighthouses throughout history within Vedanta and all of the great traditions, Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, saying that this is dependent on something else. You have what's real, what is foundational, what is unchanging, what persists. And from that foundational reality, you have a reflection, a shadow, Maya, an illusion, a misapprehension of that foundational reality that creates this experience here. Why is this language or this articulation helpful? Well, it says, yes, there is a phenomena happening, but there is a reality to pursue. A reality to pursue that is beyond all of this. And none of this is reality itself. None of this is real. Again, there is this precise language in all of this philosophy. Precise language that is so easy to misinterpret with, as the phrase goes, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. There is precise language that will also follow that up and say, you can't say this is unreal, but you cannot say this is reality, according to the sages, saints, lighthouses that have seen reality. That then tell us this is just a mere reflection, misapprehension of what's going on. It is not a lake. But you look at this video and you misapprehend, oh, that's water down there. Even the title of the video saying a mirage caught on film, you're like, no, that looks exactly like water. And though there is a phenomena happening, there is something there. It ain't water. And it is a misapprehension of ours. Thinking, perceiving something that is not real. Even the word in Hebrew, in Genesis, where it talks about us being made in God's image, the misinterpretation would be to think that we're made in God's image of, well, God must have hands and arms and legs. The Hebrew word tselem, which is from made in God's image. The better translation for that word is actually reflection. Made in God's reflection. Reflection like a mirror. Reflection like the light coming from the moon. Reflection like the light, a sandy desert that can be misinterpreted, misapprehended, to where you think, oh, light is coming from the moon. You're convinced. Humanity was convinced. For thousands of years, it just seemed logical. The moon is emitting light, obviously. And then one day, we get wise and realize, no, it's actually just reflecting light from the sun. These objects we see in the mirror are not in the mirror. And it is a complete misapprehension to think the reflection is the real thing. Similarly, on the topic of what is reality, we are told by this philosophy and a handful of others throughout history, Socrates' The Cave, we're told that the reflection is not the reality. And what we are perceiving, what we are so certain, is the totality of what's real. What we are so certain, build our entire lives around. Stories, ideas, pursuits that we swear are real and based on reality, we're told is just a reflection. Only a reflection of what is actually real. And who would go for the reflection if reality is right there for the taking? That's what this philosophy asks. Who in their right mind, if you had the choice between the two, would go for the reflection versus the real thing? And that was today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.